Britt Bolnick is a successful business owner and magic maker, living the life she loves in Maine. She has traveled a path from financial scarcity to financial independence, building a six-figure business she loves as a single mama working less than full-time. Britt mentors women who are 100% committed to building thriving businesses that create visibility and wealth without compromising personal life or sanity. She's teaching women to use authentic connections to build success versus high ad spend and common marketing hype. A little fun fact about her, she used her tried and true magic time management tool to start a nonprofit pit bull rescue while also running her business, having 3 days off a week, and being an avid book reader and beach walker.
Welcome to Fox Talks Business Podcast with your host, Tanya Fox. Tanya has been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, owning retail, service, and franchise. She holds no punches and is never afraid to talk about the nitty-gritty. Together, you'll explore the good, the bad, and the motivational of business life, turning obstacles into opportunities and failures into successes. So grab your favorite drink and let's have some fun. Here's your host, speaker, crafter, and collaborator, Tanya Fox.
Hey, Foxy listener, thank you so much for tuning in again. Just before we get going with this interview, I wanted to take a quick second to let you guys know that I have been receiving your emails and questions about collaborations. I know a lot of you, with what's been going on in the world right now, have really been trying to think outside of the box on different ways and different companies and brands that you can work with to help you kind of come out of the isolation that we've been in sort of around the world. So I want you to know that I have heard you. And what I've decided to do is that every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm going to be going on to my Instagram page. So just look up Fox Talks Business on Instagram and you'll be able to find us. And I'm going to be going on every Tuesday and doing a live. And during this live, I'm going to talk to you about real life collaborations that I've done and some tips and tricks that you can use for your business. And those that tune in live will be able to interact with me and ask me questions. So if you can't make it during that time, because I know there's a lot of you that are in different time zones, please message me and ask me your questions, and I will do my best to answer as many as I can on the lives. So that's every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. You're going to be able to see me live, and you may just be privy to some special events that I have coming up and some special new initiatives that I'm going to be doing. So you're going to want to make sure that you stay tuned. It's something that I've been working on for a very long time, and I just can't wait to bring it to you and to be able to share it with you. So I'm really looking forward to heading over. But I want your questions. So please, there is no such thing as a stupid question except for one that isn't asked. So make sure you ask. So without further ado, make sure that you have your favorite drink in hand, because this interview is not only packed with great tips, but her story is incredible. Enjoy. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Britt.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Wonderful. So tell everybody a little bit about your story, because you have a really interesting story of sort of where you started to where you are now.
Yeah. So almost 13 years ago, probably at this point, I was my daughter was 15 months old and her dad had just left us for a 23-year-old. We were living in New York City. We were living in a building that I had sunk every penny I had into, because if you have a little bit of money, and I had won a legal case, and I thought, what could I do to really ensure my future? I can buy a house in New York City. That'll never go wrong, right?
Right.
So I sunk all my money into this house. We were living there. I was waitressing and bartending 6 to 7 nights a week at that point, and he left. He kind of disappeared for a while. So there's never been regular child support. And I had this 15-month-old that hung off my body constantly, and was just killing myself with work. I would work until 1 a.m. I'd get home and, relax by 2. She was up at 4 every single morning. So I was
gosh.
really I was at breaking point mentally, physically, and definitely financially. And what happened, to make a very long story short, is that I lost the building. It got foreclosed upon. I lost every penny I ever put into it. We had to move back in with my mother, who lived across the street from the restaurant that I worked at in Manhattan, so that she could stay with the kiddo at night. And I could basically work 6 or 7 nights a week, to kind of climb out of the hole that I had dug. We were on food stamps, government cheese. We never actually got government cheese, but that's the phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Government healthcare, just really, really at the bottom. And so we had an odd luxury, which was that her dad signed over solo custody to me. He signed over sole custody, which I think is just because he didn't understand what that meant. He didn't understand that basically terminated his legal rights. And what that meant was that I had the odd luxury of not having to think about custody, shared custody, her going back and forth, her proximity to him. And I thought, I have the rest of our lives and I kind of have a clean slate. I mean, I'm broke AF, but I have nothing to dictate what I get to do now. And at that point, again, and I'm really trying to nutshell this, I had been working with women in a maximum security prison around parenting and literacy. It was this amazing, innovative program that combined teaching literacy through the scope of parents, because they were all moms. And I really became passionate about parenting because I had this kid who had so many needs at that point. And I really learned a lot about how to put my own oxygen mask on and care for her.
Right.
While at the same time making sure that I wasn't code redding somewhere in a psychiatric unit. And so I started In Arms coaching, and In Arms coaching was, in the very beginning, it was just parenting coaching, because I felt like I had really, at that point, this was probably like 2 years later, I felt like I had really come through a really tough time and made the best of it and come out sane with my kids still alive. So I started teaching parenting coaching just in the West Village of Manhattan to all my, I had a built-in community because I had a young child. And I had about 2 to 3 hours a week to work on building my business in between having her, working nights. And I started really slowly, and parenting coaching turned into women who also wanted kind of life coaching. And that, I think, at about the 2-year mark, allowed me to quit my restaurant gig and subsist solely on that. We were able to move out. I moved in with a partner. That fell apart about 2 years later. And then Bella and I moved to Maine, and it morphed into business coaching, which is what it's been for about the last 7 years. And it's a 6-figure business now. Since I quit the restaurant work at about the 2-year mark, I've not done anything for money other than In Arms coaching. And it's just really grown to a place where it serves women all over the world. And I'm deeply proud of it and really love it, really enjoy it.
Yeah. And I love your story because there's just so much in there. And I think a lot of people can,
version.
Yeah, because I think people can relate to that, right? Because we were talking a little bit before the show about how, we see all these people on stage who talk about, knowing the struggle, but it's different when you have a coach who's been in the trenches, who get what it's like when you have this passion, you want to start something, know that there is something to this, that you need to offer this to the world, but you're also going through that struggle of, but I also need to feed my kids. I also don't know if I'm going to have a roof over my head. Like, what am I doing? And that questioning. So while you were in the midst of that and deciding to go full time, what was the biggest obstacle that you faced, or one of them? Because I know that there's always many, but
there were many. And I do want to say, because I think what you're saying is really important, I want to acknowledge the privilege that I had in having a mother that we could move back in. I don't know. I literally don't. I mean, we might have become homeless if I hadn't been able to live with my mother,
right,
and have her provide free childcare, which is another immense privilege and luxury. But I got no other help. She didn't have any money. She consistently was like, is this responsible? Shouldn't you have a plan B for when this business doesn't work? Like, she did not support it in any way, shape, or form.
right.
So there were a number of really difficult challenges. One was just being around someone all the time who thought I was being kind of, irresponsible and maybe not taking the precautionary measures that I should have. She thought I should get a better paying job. But it was really important to me that my flexibility and my time with my kid not be taken away. I wanted to spend the day with her. I wanted to spend the night with her too, which was the appeal of having my own business, that I could work around
Right.
putting her and myself first. So that was a real obstacle. Not having any money, I had to be really, really choosy about what I spent money. You can't start and grow a business with absolutely zero funding. You just can't. It has to have some cash infusions. And that's why often women, not often, every once in a while, a woman will come to me and say, I just quit my job and I'm going to start my own business. Can you help me? And I say, absolutely not. Go get the job back and build up a savings, and then we'll talk, because you can't expect a new or young business to provide for you financially. So what I did was I decided the wisest thing that I could do in the beginning days was to hire my own business coach. And I took 2 or 3 extra shifts a month to be able to hire her. And that was really, I stand by that. And then just the personal strain, I was really trying to birth something that provided support. And the challenge was that I had to do a lot of inner work around finding, allowing, and receiving the support myself. You can't
Yeah.
push something to others that you're not going to take advantage of for yourself. There's a energetic mismatch there. So I had to do a lot of inner work. I mean, a lot around the failed marriage, around my own self-esteem and confidence, around the value of what I was offering. There was a hefty portion of inner work, and that's very hard to do when you're just kind of holding the oxygen mask to your face.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point too, because I think what a lot of people, especially because we're seeing a lot more in the coaching industry coming out, and there's a lot of self-doubt that goes in with that, but they don't realize that you need a coach as well. Like, I don't think there's anybody who is works in that capacity at all. I have a cousin who's
Mhm.
in psychiatry, and they're like, hello,
Exactly.
go to therapy all the
Supervision.
time. Like,
Yeah.
have to,
Yeah.
because I need to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And it's just about, growing just a little bit faster than anybody who I'm
Yeah.
helping. It's not
Yeah.
about being an expert and knowing everything, because you can't,
Nope.
you never will.
Never. No, but I do feel that it's unethical to do something, to offer, to accept payment from others for something that you will not do for yourself. I really
Right.
do feel it's a question of ethics. I am deeply committed to being supported and being coached and having supervision. And I would feel really inauthentic and kind of icky if I were not doing those things myself.
Yeah. And I think it's true too. I think even when you're a business person and you're looking for somebody, like when I look for coaches, I always look for somebody who's done whatever it is that I want to do. So, because that's important to me. I don't
Yeah.
want advice from somebody who's read about how to do it. I want somebody who's, like we were talking about before, who's been in the trenches, who is like, yeah, no,
100%.
here's all the mistakes that I made.
Yeah.
Here's the lessons that I learned, and we can move on.
A
So tell us
hundred
a little
percent.
bit about the business that you have. So what is it that you do? What are the services that you provide?
So In Arms Coaching right now is or has been for over 7 years, has been a business coaching and mentorship practice. What I do is really almost more of mentorship than coaching, although there is a lot of coaching within it. And I work with women, business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, visionaries all over the world who want to take a thing that they absolutely love and want to have an impact with and put it out into the world in a way that makes them money without costing them the rest of their life. So that's a little bit big, because I work with women both at the beginning, in the beginning years of their business, to get seen, get visible, stand out in the social media noise, understand their offerings and ideal clients, prepare to onboard team. And then I work with women, 5, 6, 7 years later, who really have an established business and either are thinking about how to delegate and leverage so that they can step back a little bit and maybe do something else, which I did 3 years ago and we'll talk about soon. Or maybe start a new branch that is, passionate, full of passion for them, but they want to keep the first piece going, or just understanding how to keep leveraging and evolving their business while being able to have more and more free time.
And I think the being seen part is, is so hard these days because with social media the way it is, I mean, you're just chucking stuff out there. So
Yeah.
on that aspect, what's one tip that you could give our listeners that they can sort of implement going forward to help with that? Because I think a lot of the times it's just, you see people changing stuff and they're just guessing.
Yeah. Well, I'll
Really.
tell you, I'll connect it to one of my pet peeves. And this is something that I don't know who told people to start doing this, and I don't know why they do it, because it doesn't work for me anyway. So I assume it doesn't work for others, but I'm really despising the fake, authentic, I'm going to get real vulnerable here posts that are basically just really thinly disguised sales, like, don't you want to know more kind of things. They're just baited hooks. I'm really hating those. What I'm seeing working is a couple of different things, and all of it has to come from being really authentic, just being yourself. Because the reason, no matter what industry you're in, there are a gajillion other people out there doing that. The reason why people pick you is because they know you, they trust you, and they like you. And so whatever you can do in social media to cultivate people knowing you, trusting you, and liking you is going to allow you to stand out. And that means talking about the things that matter to you. It means talking about the problems that your clients are having. It means being of service. When I batch my social media content, I really think about what are the top 10 things that my clients were struggling with in the last 2 weeks. And I talk about those things, or I use case studies, or I provide inspirational bits and tools, but they're all from me. They're all really authentic. A lot of them involve dogs, or really weird metaphors that are super, super specific to me and my life. And that allows people to feel like they know me, because who I am, and actually, if you follow my business page and my personal page, you'll see that there is zero difference between who I am in my business page and who I am in my personal page. There are just more pictures of dogs on my personal page. But just being really authentic and not following any sort of a template or fakeness, or don't think about how you can sell on social media. There it is. Don't think about how you can sell. That's not what social media is for. It's for being of service
Yeah.
and connecting.
And I think that that's so true, because there's nothing I hate more than somebody, saying that they're going to offer, here, I want to tell you guys something. And then it turns into an infomercial at the end. Like it just, I'm with you on that. It drives me crazy and it'll turn me off. So they might have
Yeah.
had something that was a phenomenal offer, but I've shut it off because I'm like,
Yep.
oh, here we go again. Right.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because I knock Tupperware ladies down a lot, but it's that Tupperware lady coming towards you, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
back off.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I don't want to
Exactly.
join your cult. I don't want to,
Yep.
just leave me alone. And I think that that's true. I think being who you truly are is definitely key, because you're going to get caught in that afterwards. And it's hard to hold two personalities. And
Yeah.
you're not for everybody. I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned very, very young, actually, going into business, was I tried to conform myself to what I thought society needed me to be. And I realized, and so I have a very strong personality and I'm very sarcastic, and I would swallow that so hard.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it killed my soul, really, is
Yep.
what it ended up doing. And then I had somebody say, you're not for everybody, and that's okay. And then I realized, once I started letting go of worrying about that,
Yeah.
that I was meeting the people I needed to be around. I was
Yeah.
meeting the people that it was exciting to work with, because I wasn't constantly going, do I need to say this? Oh no, I better say it this way. I better word it this way. It was
Yeah.
exhausting
I was
trying to
just
be
going to say
proper.
exhausting. Yeah. It also, here's the other thing, is that if you slip and be yourself, you might lose clients. I'm like, this is who I am. Let's get it all on the table, because if anything I say right now offends you, you are not going to enjoy working with me.
Yeah.
And if anything I say really excites you, you're going to totally love working with me, because there's lots more where that comes from. So I am super out of the closet in every single way, because you deserve to know who I am and make your own choices. And if I've had many people step away from my page, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's, I love the saying, not all money is good money, because I remember even when I started my first accounting company, I would take just anybody because I was just trying to make it. And then I
Sure.
started realizing that I really had to start being a little bit more selective because I wasn't enjoying working with them. Neither was my staff. And it
Yeah.
was more of a headache because they were, it was that customer that always complains, right? There was always something wrong. They always needed something. And it just felt like you were petting them and you were like, it's okay. I love you. You're still pretty. And you're like, oh my God, like this
I
is
love you.
just.
You're so pretty. That's awesome. Yes, it's not, I really don't think that money, I mean, for me, money that I don't enjoy making is not worth the stress and
Yeah.
anxiety or discomfort or annoyance that it causes.
Yeah. And I think too that, and sometimes you don't know. I mean, I still to this day, sometimes I get clients and I think they're going to be fantastic. And then I work with them for a little bit and I go, I don't
Mm.
think we're really a match. But that's to me where collaborating in my industry with other people that
Yes.
do what I do is so
Yes.
key, because I think it's okay for me now to say, now I say, you know what? I think I want to pass you on to one of my colleagues because they're a better fit for you. And I think they're going to be able to offer you everything that you're looking for. And it's
Yep.
win-win. Then I'm not trying to deal with them, but they're also getting the services that they need.
Yeah. And you've done something awesome for a colleague, which
Yeah.
is to send business their way. Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your the work that you do with dogs, because I don't want to give it away. Let you do that.
So all my life I've wanted a dog rescue. And about 20 years ago, I got my first pit bull off the streets of New York. Walking disaster that guy was. His name was Boo Radley. Loved him with all my heart. And that kind of opened my eyes up to the plight of the bully. We call them the bully breeds because they are the bull terrier-ish sort of breeds. And just how they were just drowning in abuse and neglect. The shelters are full of them. It's, the dogs that dog fighters use, and they're just such good dogs. So all my life I've wanted a rescue. And on my honeymoon weekend, which was about 3 years ago-ish, you'd think I'd remember that, but I don't.
I
It was
don't
about
remember
3 years
either.
ago. Okay, good. I always feel so bad.
I always wait for the calendar pops up. It's like, your anniversary is in a week. And I'm like,
Oh,
thank God I
okay.
put that in there, because I would not remember.
I remember the day. I don't remember what year it was. But anyway, it was about 3 years ago. And on our honeymoon weekend, I said, hey, babe, how about if we start a pit bull rescue? And God bless my husband. He said, that's a great idea, honey. I'm behind you. I often wonder how often in his head, he'd never say it out loud, but in his head, he was like, what the hell was I thinking?
What are we doing now?
So we started Pity Posse Rescue and Sanctuary. The Sanctuary has not yet come into play in a real sense, although we have sanctuary dogs who will be with us for the rest of their life. And we are a Maine-based bully breed rescue. And a part of what we do is rescue, but the rest is around education and advocacy, around, around good dog ownership, around positive training, around, dog child safety, dog socialization, really helping people understand how to be amazing dog owners so that we can help to turn this, their taboo, their stigma around. And also eventually as we build, we're working on putting together a legal team that will begin to lobby for the laws actually changing, first in Maine, to make it harder to get away with abuse and neglect. But strengthening those laws are really going to help as well. So we're getting pretty big. We're practicing massive takeover, but it's entirely because of the business model that I've set up that I was able to do that. I mean, I basically got In Arms coaching into it's 3 days of work a week. On the other 2 days of the week, I'm still connecting with my clients if they need me, but I'm not actually dedicating time to it.
Right.
And then the other 7 days are Pity Posse, because dog rescue doesn't stop, and it's more active nights and weekends. But I was able to really make space, and I started Pity Posse with a business model, meaning that most rescues are one-woman circuses, essentially.
Right.
And I started it with a team. I started it with a board. So from the very beginning, I was not the only person doing things, and it's really grown. I mean, we've had organic social media posts of 80 to 100,000. In the last 3 years, we've rescued over 300 dogs. And we're just really growing. We have probably about 50 active volunteers, really active, like on a day-to-day basis. And then hundreds of people in our Facebook groups. But it's really fabulous, and I love it. And it's just so much a part of the work that I know I was put here to do. I mean, I like to say that in any given moment, I'm exceedingly happy if I'm either supporting a woman or saving a pit bull. Like, other than being with my kid and my family, that's pretty much what I want to be doing with my
Yeah.
time, supporting women and saving pit bulls.
And so with, starting that and, and wanting to spend time with your family, the big time management is a big piece in that, because a lot of people, I think, are still stuck in this mindset. And I was for many years, that the more hours I work equates the harder I work. And that is a stigma that I think people are trying to get over, but it's still, I think, so ingrained in our
Yeah.
society. So what are some time management tips that you've used that have really worked for you?
Mhm. So my motto is to work smarter, not harder. And I think that that's really essential but I don't think that this is like a nutshell answer, because one of the things that we really have to look at, and I'm sure to some degree this happens with men. I speak exclusively about women because I pretty much work exclusively with women. But one of the things that we bump up against is the inner pieces of why we fill our every hour, every
Mhm.
day. And part of that has to do with the fact that, many of us believe that we're only worthy if we're really sweating and, and shedding tears. The value of what we do is based on how busy we are, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of baggage that drives that workaholic, that drives that, we start our own businesses to be our own bosses, and then we're working 90 hours a week and unable to shut off our cell phones. So one of the first things that I did was that when I was starting in arms coaching and I was working nights and I had the kid, and I also had to figure out how to make time to start this business, I Googled time management. That's where I started. And I found, again, probably about a gajillion different strategies and
Yeah.
formulas for time management. None of them that I found were written by single mothers with sole custody who also worked a night job. So, and most of them were written by men. And that was offensive to me, because the majority of men out there, statistically, that need time management have a wifey at home. And their wifey is doing the kids and the dogs and the laundry and the household stuff and the groceries. So their time management is leaving the house in the morning and coming home at night and having dinner ready. That's not the kind of time management that I needed. I was wifey. I was wifey and him.
Right.
So it really was offensive to me that I couldn't find anyone talking about time management who was trying to do what I was doing. So I made my own, and I call it Sacred Structure. And it's basically, and it's a freebie. I don't, I'll give it to anyone who wants it because I think it's so useful. But it's basically, the premise of it is that there's inner work to be done around owning your time, and you really have to be okay with looking at that. Because so many women work really hard to clear time and then fill it
Yeah.
because they don't. Yeah. Okay. That's a whole nother show. But Sacred Structure is based on the premise that if you get really clear about what's most important to you, you can structure your time by putting those big rocks into your calendar first, putting the little rocks, the things that aren't as important, more optional, and then delegating, learning to say no. And there's a third one that I'm totally blanking on, but basically, or rescheduling if it's not really, really crucial, and that it all has to fit according to your priorities.
Yeah. And
And
that
I have
was, yeah, that was the biggest piece, I think, that you said that I learned about time management, was having what I call white space in my calendar,
yes, grace
and
period.
not being non-negotiable with it. This is a time that is for me, and I am just going to
Yes.
sit and do nothing. No
Yep.
work, no housework, no nothing.
Yep.
And also being okay with, I think, the other piece that you said of delegating, and realizing that there are those, I call them $15 an hour jobs. There are those jobs where I'm like, this is not worth my time doing. I am
Yep.
worth more than cleaning my house, or I'm worth more than,
Amen.
doing this. And it was fine. And it was actually when my son was small. And I remember going away to conferences and people saying, do you feel guilt? Like, how do you feel really guilty for being away from your son? And I remember coming home and saying to my husband, do people ask you when you're at work if you feel guilty
Oh,
being away from
right.
him? And he looked at me with this look of like, what? And he goes, no, why would they? And I was like, isn't that interesting? And when I really sat down to think about it, it was more women who were asking me that. than, you know, than anybody else. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Cause I was like, no, I don't feel guilty. He's with his
Yeah.
father. Like, all I say
Yeah.
is I'm leaving. Please keep him alive until I
You
get
know what's
back.
funny? One of my clients got asked to speak at a really big conference that was happening, and she was so excited. And what they asked her to speak to was how she had been able to be in her business with a 1.5-year-old and how she juggled all that. And she said, you know, no offense, and I'm really honored that you're asking me to speak. But first of all, I've looked at your conference roster and it's about 3/4 men, and men don't want to hear that. And secondly, I have a lot more to bring to the conversation than just how I juggle my business and a baby. And I'd prefer to speak to that. And I was like, yeah, girl,
Yeah.
tell them. You know, she was like, I'm not going to speak to 20 women at a conference of like 300 people about how I juggle my baby and my business, you know? And I was like, that is awesome. And she was so offended. She was like, they would not have asked my husband to present on that topic, you know? So I'm so glad you're saying that, because it's so true. And it's really time for us to, it's time
Yeah.
to put the kibosh on that one.
Well, and I think it's true. I think we need to stand up and be truthful about it. Like, I even remember being pregnant and my husband would come home and he didn't mean it the way I took it, but he would be like, you know, hey, what did you do today? Like, he just honestly was like, hey, like, what's up? Tell me about your day. Right. But I was like, I remember looking at him and being like, I grew a lung today. What did you do? You know? And I remember
so
just kind of
awesome.
going, oh, and you know, and later we would have conversations. He goes, you know, I was really just trying to start a conversation with you. I wasn't trying to oppress you or anything like that. But I was also going through my own internal struggle of feeling guilty about, I'd consciously made the decision that I wanted to be an at-home mom. I wanted to, that's what I wanted to do. And I mean, I am an entrepreneur through and through, because I didn't even make it a year before I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, he's such a good baby. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm so bored.
Yeah,
Can I start something? Like,
yeah.
But I think it's, I think it's as women that we need to start being more authentic, and we need to start speaking up about that stuff and realizing that we need to start being okay with saying, like your client did, I'm not okay with talking about that. It's, it's 2 sentences. I do it because I have to. That's it.
Yep.
Like, what else do you want to know? I have more. And I love what she said is standing up and saying, I have more to bring to the table than something like that.
Yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, but I have won entire arguments in my household by making a list of what my husband did in a workday and what I did in a workday, and I just hold them up, and he's like, "Okay, got it."
Yeah,
got it.
I remember going on
workday.
strike once, and actually like having a sign and saying, "That's it, I'm on strike." And I think my son was around 4 or 5, and I went, "That's it, I'm done." And so I didn't do anything, and then I think it clued in when the dishes started piling up and the laundry started piling up and the dust started like, and then I think it was like, oh, and I'm like, yeah. So not only am I working full time and helping you in your business, by the way, in the evenings, I'm also keeping our house running. Like,
it's huge. And I'll tell you, the delegation and what you said before about making sure that I'm not doing the $15 an hour jobs has been really huge. I mean, having someone who comes and cleans is worth every damn penny. All of those things. I really think I actually just put up a post on my page about team, where I shared a newsletter that I wrote actually years ago about what's happening behind the scenes of a 6-figure business. Like, these are all of the people that I count on in order to be able to run it. And at that point, it included like the person who took our 12-month-old Staffordshire puppy who was off the walls, out 3 times a week for a 2-hour hike. It included all of the even external people that just allowed me to sit at my computer and work. But that delegation piece has been a huge tool in how I've kept building, while actually, and I have kind of tracked this, even though I'm not really a numbers person, but while actually working less every year. Every year I'm taking more time off. Whether it's more time off to run Pity Posse or more time off just like in terms of every 4 or 5 weeks, I mark a week off on my calendar and I say, nobody asked me to do anything work related in this week. And my team, reads it out. But that's really been the key to not selling parts of my soul and my sanity in order to keep up leveling. And
Yeah.
also the other cool thing, and this is really such a huge thing for me, is that I'm supporting other women. When I give this house cleaner that I love work that she honestly, God bless her, she loves cleaning houses. And I'm like, here, come
Yeah.
clean this house. I'm supporting another woman bringing home money. When I hire more team, I'm supporting other women who committed to working from home around their kids' schedules. So it feels so aligned to me to say, not only do I need help, but I'm supporting 99% other women when I ask for help and when I invest in it.
Yeah. And I think it's true. Like, we have to get rid of that stigmatism that we put on ourselves, I think, of feeling guilty that we can't get it all done, because
Mhm.
there's nobody who does it by themselves. Like, I have
Yeah,
yet to meet anybody
no
who
one,
is making a good living who was like, did it all by myself. No help.
no one.
Like,
Mm-mm.
and if
And
they
those,
did,
yeah,
they're not enjoying it at all.
they're
You can't.
definitely not happy and they're not doing it all no matter what they say. There are balls dropping and they're probably like bigger and bigger balls by the day. But when, I love looking at the women that I really admire and thinking about who they have, I mean,
Yeah.
who are and they have people upon people upon people who do all of those things. One of my best friends, Jen Moore, says, you can't be the show pony and the workhorse. So sometimes we'll be
I love
talking
that.
and she'll be like, are you being the show pony or the workhorse? And I'm like, oh, that's a workhorse job. And she's like, that is a workhorse job. And the more workhorse jobs you have, the less you can be the show pony.
Yeah. And I think it's true. We need to be okay with that so that we can get to the things that we're really, really good at.
Yeah,
And I don't, like you said, I don't want to be really, really good at cleaning my house.
never,
I'm sure I could
never,
get
ever.
there, but it's not a
But
passion of mine. And I would rather
yeah,
make someone else happy.
yes. Yes. And I feel
You
that
do it.
about so many things in my business. I never
Yeah.
want to be a great, conversion copywriter. I never want to be a really great systems and organizational person. I never want to be great at client care. I am great at coaching and mentoring. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
So all of those other pieces that my business needs to run or that I want my business to have to run, they're all delegated. I'm not going to learn. I'm not even going to try to learn to do those things. I spent years trying to learn how to write conversion copy, still suck at it. And I'm not dumb. Like, I'm fairly intelligent, still suck at it. And finally said, I don't ever want anyone to tell me how to do it again. I want to
Yeah.
hire it all out and have someone who just eats, breathes, and sleeps conversion copy, writing all my marketing material.
Yeah.
Done.
Because yeah, and it's more beneficial, I think, to your business for you to
Yes.
constantly work on where your strengths are
Yes.
and keep it
Yes.
at that, because it's a lot less, like you were saying before, I find it's a lot less stressful for me for
Yeah.
when I've delegated that stuff out, because I'm not constantly worrying about it, and I don't go, ugh, when I see that
Yeah.
block of,
Do
it's
this.
filing day. I don't think I've
Yeah.
filed a piece of paper in 5 years. I know
That's
it needs to be
awesome.
done. I know it's important, but I hate it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
found a girl who's like, oh, it makes her heart happy. So I was like, you tell me what you need.
Have
And,
at it.
I bought her a labeler and she just gets so excited when it's office supply day. And I
Amazing.
was like, you have at her,
Yeah.
you know?
That's amazing. And it's important to understand yourself so that you know what those are. Like, I will never, even though it's fairly rudimentary, I will never delegate my newsletter because I actually love writing my newsletter. It's a way for me to connect with the people who have opted in to hear what I have to say. It's my coffee shop time. I get a special latte for it. I love writing my newsletter. That, I don't think that will ever go off my list,
Yeah.
even though it is a $15 an hour job, but I love it. So I keep it.
Yeah.
Cleaning? No,
Yeah.
that goes off.
And I think it's, just really making, like you said, making that list. Like you said, I mean, we joked about making the list, but for me, I made a list of absolutely
Yeah.
everything I did in a week and how
Yep.
much time it took me. And then some of them, I had to really look at it and go, can I pay somebody less? And then I took my hourly wage and went,
Yes.
this is how much it's costing me to do this job, like filing.
Yeah.
And for a quarter of the price, I could hire somebody to do it in a quarter of the time.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I would, I'd putz around and then I'd walk around. Like, I
Right.
just
Because you don't
really,
enjoy it.
I don't enjoy it. So I wasn't on task to it, And
Yeah.
so I think it's really breaking that that down and finding out how much is it actually costing you to do those jobs? And can you get
Exactly.
somebody to do it for less?
Yep. Yep. So
Because I think
important.
like you were saying before, a lot of people go, well, I don't have the money to hire somebody. And I think sometimes we just look at it wrong, because sometimes
Yeah.
I think you don't, you have too much money not to hire that person, because,
Right.
you could be making so much more if you weren't, you know,
Yes. The
cleaning
question is,
toilets.
what is it costing you to not have
Mhm.
that person? Not what, not what will you lose? It's what is the actual cost to not have that person? And
Yeah.
that is, I've never yet done that exercise with a woman where we were like, yeah, you'd better not delegate this.
Yeah. And I think too, sometimes what happens is we just get stuck. We
Yeah,
get stuck
for sure.
in everything that we're doing. And you actually have a tool for that on your website. So tell us a little bit about that. If you're feeling stuck, what is this tool? Where can they
Yeah.
find it?
The Biz Breakthrough Quiz. So everyone loves quizzes. I can't tell you how often my kid will tell me like what Harry Potter house she'd be in or what kind of potato she'd be. So this quiz won't tell you what Harry Potter house you would get sorted into, and it won't tell you what kind of potato you are. But what I did was I noticed that my clients get stuck in 4 predominant areas. It's always one of the 4. So we actually created a quiz to help them identify which area they were getting stuck in, because the problem is when you're stuck, most of us don't like to be stuck. So we just grab for solutions and strategies. But if the solution and strategy doesn't fit the actual thing that's happening, that's not working for you, you're just spinning your wheels and wasting time. And you're probably wasting money too. So we created this quiz. It'll tell you the area that you're stuck in, and then it will really give you, because I didn't want to drop people there, it'll give you the first few like small tools just to get the machine, the wheels rolling again. So I really like it for that. It's kind of, it reminds me very much. I remember when I moved from from like a really old car to a somewhat newer car, and my car guy, who's a really good friend of mine, was like, "Oh, now when something's wrong, we can just hook up the computer to it." And I was like, "The computer?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's a diagnostic computer. You just hook it into your car, and it's like beep, this thing is wrong." And I was like, "Why didn't I know about this?" And he's like, "Because of your piece of crap old car didn't have the ability. We had to actually listen and diagnose." So I really think of this as like that cool diagnostic tool where you're like, stop guessing. Just figure out what's wrong with it. And from there, you can start to think about what strategies would be effective for you. But you can't think about the strategies before you know exactly what part needs oil or whatever.
Yeah. And I think the key piece too, because I did go on and I did look at the questions and stuff and take it myself. And I think being authentic when you're taking it is like you said, is
Yes.
really important, is being honest. And because it's not going anywhere, you can be honest. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are a little bit intimidated by stuff, because they're like, who's reading this? Where is this going to?
Right. Yeah, no one. So don't lie on the quiz because it's a waste of your time. It's for you. And you can't, it's like if the doctor was like, "What's wrong?" And you were like, "Yeah, my head doesn't hurt. It's not my head." And it's your head. Like, don't do that. You can't get an accurate read if you're not honest. So it is really important to really think like, is this true for me? And maybe even if I can take it a step further to say, if this feels like something I don't want to admit, why is it? Because if you're really stuck or feeling shame or embarrassment about where you're stuck, I guarantee you that's one of the things that's not working for you.
Yeah.
And just so everyone knows out there who's listening, we all get stuck. I love sharing the places that I get stuck and the ways that I completely messed up, because I think it's really helpful. I know it's always helpful for me when I hear people that I look up to saying, "Yep, hit a wall, got under my bed for 3 days with a bottle of tequila, didn't come out for a while." That's really helpful for me. So whatever is happening for you right now, if you're feeling kind of hesitant about answering the questions, it's probably happened to both of us, if
Yeah.
not at least one of us.
And I
And
say that all the time. Like have a lot of clients, who will say, "Oh, I failed." And I'm like, fantastic. Because if you're in a failure right now, there's still 2 ways to go.
yeah,
So if you're
always.
going to learn a lesson from it, that failure then becomes something that you've overcome. So it's a
Yes.
win. The
App is
only time,
fantastic.
yeah. And I said, and if you don't learn a lesson, it becomes a mistake. So
Yes.
failure is not a bad thing. It's whether you make it an obstacle that you've overcome or whether you make it a mistake. But being in there, that means you're in limbo right now. You get to decide which way you want to go.
100%
And when I started
choice.
looking at it that way, I realized that failure is not a bad word anymore. It's just an opportunity to take a different path.
Brilliant. Yeah, so true. And I really think that the entrepreneurial brain is kind of predisposed to that. So if you're stuck in a place where you're not seeing it as a choice, where you're not seeing it as an opportunity to make different decisions and grow, then you really need help.
Yeah.
Because that's not a place that's going to serve you. And it's not a place where growth is possible until you make that choice to see it that way.
And I think that's where finding coaches is so important, or even just finding somebody who's, out of your business or exactly what is going on, because it's so much easier. We all know that if a friend comes to you and they have a problem, you can come up with 50 ways to get them out of it, because it's easier to think, to give advice to someone else or to give options to someone else than it is when you have emotion and all of that stuff involved.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
If people are looking for that, where would they go to find more information about how they can work with you?
So my website has the You Won't Find Out What Potato You Are quiz. And it's also got just information, and there's a blog going up on it and all that stuff. And that's just www.inarmscoaching, all one word.com. I'm super active on Facebook. Facebook is kind of my arena. So you can look me up at Britt Bolnick. There's both a business page and my personal page. And those are places where I really hang out. And then I also have a free membership group on Facebook called Tribe of Sacred Biz Rebels. That's another place that I hang out a lot. And you'll see the newsletter link on my website.
And if people are interested in helping you with the dog rescue, where can they go for that? Because I think I'm a dog lover. Mine is like sitting underneath the desk right now. So I think that's important.
Yes. So this is Pity Posse. This is the logo for it.
Aww.
And we're super active on Facebook. And then team also has an Instagram, actually, and Pinterest account going now. We just added that. So pityposserescue.com. Or no, it's just pityposse.com now. And it's PITTIEPOSSE. And we always welcome more dog lovers.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and being authentic with us and it was just such a pleasure for me to get to know you more.
Yeah, this was so fun. I really appreciate you having me.
So I encourage you all to head over to foxtalksbusiness.ca. Just click on blogs at the top of the page and you'll be able to see the article for this week's episode. Inside there, you'll have all of the links to be able to contact Britt, to work with her more, as well as how you can help out her amazing animal rescue, Pity Posse. I also want to remind you to head over to our Instagram and don't forget to follow us, where we are going to be doing our lives every Monday in May and June on Tuesdays at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, where I'm going to be talking to you about collaboration and giving you real life tips and examples of how you can start your very own collaboration. So if you have any questions or curiosities about your business, make sure you message me so that I can answer them in the live. I look so forward to seeing you guys there, and I can't wait until next week's episode. So whether you're just surfing around on Instagram because you're stuck inside the house, whether you're working on your business, the next brilliant idea, or whether you're just trying to get a family member to eat what it is that you made for dinner, remember to have fun. Because if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?